Good morning, everybody. Well, this is always the coolest part of the live streams, when everyone comes into the room at once. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon if you are on the East Coast, and good evening if you are in Europe, and very late evening if you're in Australia or Asia. Great to see you all. Great to see Doug Hall eating breakfast. It's always a treat. Morning, Doug. Fantastic to see you all here. If this is the first time you've been at Investor Musician, welcome. My name is Andrew Bain. I'm the principal horn of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. We'll do more introductions in a minute, but we're very excited to be doing this class with you. This is sort of a continuation of the masterclass that we or the challenge that we did last week, the 5-day challenge. So it's great to see everyone here. If it's your first time, or even if you're an old timer and you've been here before, let us know where you're coming in from. It's always great for us to see the variety of locations that we get here online. So we have Wolfgang from Germany, Willard in Michigan, David Green from New York. This is fantastic. So yeah, really excited stuff. Just a reminder, if you have a camera, we'd love to see your face. It's always cool to turn your camera on, even if you just getting out of bed like Ollie Redfern. Actually, Ollie Redfern is going to bed pretty soon because he's in Germany. So yes, whack your camera on. We actually, as I said to the warm-up session, people, we have a filter that we purchased. It cost us a lot of money that makes everyone look like a supermodel on camera. So don't worry, you all look great. The filter works perfectly, and everyone looks terrific. So I am in my dressing room here at the Los Angeles Philharmonic in the Walt Disney Concert Hall. Behind me is an original print of one of the scenes from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So it's very cool. I reckon I've got the luckiest sketch in the building, but all of the rooms here in Walt Disney Concert Hall will have an original painting, original sketch from one of the Walt Disney movies. And so it's pretty cool every time you get to sort of wander around and get into someone's dressing room and see what different images that they have. All right, so without any further ado, good morning and welcome. This is the 5-Star Musician Mastery Method session, and today's masterclass, we're going to be talking about how we can deliver great practice onto the stage. And this is something that we sort of touched on a little bit in towards the end of the challenge, and I wanted to sort of dive deeper and give you guys an idea of like how I approach moving my practice from practice mode and the practice room, and how we can consistently deliver that on stage, and just some ways of approaching things, and just thinking about how we make that connection. Because I don't know if you guys are like me, but I've had some really fantastic results in the practice room where I thought, I'm about to play a concert. I'm like, I'm amazing. I sound great. And then I went on stage and it was like, I did not sound great. And none of this is translating. So I'm sure some of us have had that experience, and I want to give you some tools today to sort of deal with that and to understand, why we react that way. So as I said, my name is Andrew Bain. I'm the principal horn of the LA Phil and horn professor at the Colburn School. I also teach and play at the Aspen Music Festival. I've had some very good fortune to have some pretty cool jobs. I've won 7 auditions for professional orchestras, and was very fortunate to work with John Williams on several movies, including the last 3 Star Wars films. So that's just a little bit about me, and my partner in crime is Rupal. Rupal is an amazing business mind. She went to the University of Minnesota and University of Michigan for her business degree. She's also an environmental scientist, but as well as all of that, is an expert on tax. She got her tax certificate when we were going through the pandemic, actually just prior to the pandemic. And she's worked for some pretty cool companies. She currently works at Nautilus Solar, working, structuring their deals for their wind farm, their solar farm expansion. So about 10 years ago, Riffle and I had an idea to start this business to help, work with the community, to build a community of musicians and help them advance their careers and sort of fill in the gaps that exist after we've finished our college education and when we're in the professional life, and how we can, advance our career further. So when the pandemic hit, we were able to start Invest in Musician, and this is our team. So thank you to our amazing team that works behind the scenes today. We're joined in the Zoom room by Sammy and Dana, but the team does an amazing job putting the live events together, getting the emails out to you, answering questions, making sure that all of these things keep rolling along. If you need to, find out more about Invest in Musician, just check out our website, www.investinmusician.com. A lot of free materials there and a lot of links to various things. Also, I would check out the YouTube channel, Invest in Musician on YouTube. A lot of the previous events that we've held are on the YouTube channel, as well as I've got some playing videos there, demonstration stuff, as well as all the warm-up classes that we've done in the past, for not only for horn, but also Dennis's technique classes, classes with David Rehano, and the other faculty that work at Invest in Musician. Okay, let's jump right in. Post-pandemic problem. So it's not so much of a problem, but it's turning into an exciting time as we come out of the summer and into the fall. We run into this situation of how can we find ourselves to be lucky? And the definition of luck is opportunity meeting preparation. And what we want to make sure is that, we put ourselves in a position come the fall or even through the summer, where when the opportunity arises, whether that be the call for a gig or the potential for a gig or the potential to meet someone or connect with someone who can give us a gig or an audition, when that comes up and that opportunity comes up, we want to make sure that we're in the best position to be prepared. So this is where, we're just going to think a little bit this morning about, how can we put ourselves in the best possible position with our playing and with our ability to bring that to the stage, so that when we have these opportunities, that luck falls on our side. If we have an opportunity and we're not prepared, then we end up with this difficult situation where the opportunity will slip through our fingers. Likewise, of course, if we prepare but no opportunities come, then that's just leaves us in the practice room. So how can we combine these two things? All right. Turning practice into performance. So this is the sort of the crux of what I want us to think about today. So for me, you hear a lot about how we need to be perfect on stage for an audition. If we want to win an audition, we have to play perfectly. Everything has to be exactly right. I just want to tell you guys that's actually really not true. We do not need to play perfectly. And in fact, I've been playing in the Los Angeles Philharmonic for over 10 years, and I've never, ever heard a perfect performance. From a soloist, from my colleagues, from conductors, from anyone on the stage, it doesn't happen. So it's not about this idea that we have to even pursue perfection. It's about delivering what we have in the practice room and the level that we get at the practice room, and delivering that to an optimal level on stage, despite the situation, whether you're playing a concerto and you're terrified, or whether it's just a nice chamber music setting with a bunch of friends. So this is a really interesting, approach to our mindset as we perform, as we go on stage, is that if we can gear ourselves in our practice to start thinking about how we can practice in a way that is going to lead us towards actually being able to deliver that on stage. And then we're on stage, not lowering the expectation of, we don't want to play poorly, but just understanding that things can go wrong and things will go wrong. Whether that means you play a note slightly out of tune, or it's not perfectly together with somebody else, or you might just miss a little tiny bit of coordination, or that note doesn't actually speak at the same time. All of these little things happen in performance. It doesn't mean that we're not playing at a high level. It just means that we're human and we're normal. Congratulations, you're normal. If you make a mistake in a concert, anyone made a mistake in a concert? Anyone? Show of hands. Matt's like, no, never. Every concert's been perfect. Yeah, okay. No. So we all know that feeling, and it's like, oh. But what we want to make sure, and what we want to build the skill set, is the recognition that these things happen, and we're building the skill set to understand that we just need to keep moving and stay on track and get back to what we practice. So the number of times that I hear from students that like, I went in this audition, I was so prepared, every excerpt was really great. I knew exactly what I want to do. I did a really great warm up. I felt really relaxed before I went on stage. And then I went on stage and I made a bunch of mistakes, and then I freaked out, and then, it just got worse, and it all fell apart. Anyone experienced that before? Yeah, we all have. So this occurs, as you know from this feeling. This happens a lot, and what I've been working on for my own performance is just understanding that these moments happen, and getting myself in a mindset that all I want to do is stay in the moment. I just want to stay in the moment of what is coming, what is the next immediate thing that is happening that I can actually address, and understanding that there is absolutely zero that I can do about what just happened. I can't rewind the clock. I can't press pause and go back and erase it. I've got to keep moving forward. So I want to commit to what I've prepared. And if I can do that, what I'm going to be able to do is produce consistently high performance, or at least consistent performance relative to how I'm practicing. So if you are, for example, if you're a high school student playing the horn, going on stage and expecting to sound like Stefan Dorr and being shocked when that doesn't happen is not going to help you, right? But going on stage, expecting to deliver what you've put in the practice room, and having that understanding of like, this is what I'm going for, this is what I want as my outcome, focusing on myself, gives us a chance to actually produce our best. And this is what gives great performances and wins auditions, is not playing like someone else, not playing at some mythical level that's, perfection. It's just playing the best that we can in that moment in time. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, back to my beautiful slides. Look at that one. Okay, so let's start this whole process with the important thing I want you to think about this morning. You got a little task that we're gonna touch on. I want you to think about your goals. Now, some of us in this room, their goal is going to be playing in the Chicago Symphony. For some of us, it might be I want to be a regular freelancer with the local orchestra. For some of us, it might be I want to actually be able to play Strauss concerto in 3 months' time. All of these goals are equally important because they're your goals. But what is going to really help us set the framework for really great performance is to take it back to a basis of goals. If we can construct some really simple, meaningful goals for ourselves, we give us the opportunity to be able to then structure our practice, which is going to help put us in the right direction for when we go onto stage. If we start with no goals, if there's no goal, like, okay, I'm going to play Strauss one next week. My goal is to, I don't know, I don't care. Then we get into that moment on stage and it's like, oh, I've got no structure. I don't know what I'm aiming for. It gives us a direction. So creating goals gives us a direction. So here's your little task for this morning. Grab a piece of paper if you can. So I want you to think about why do you play your instrument? Why are you a musician? This is a really handy thing for us to come back to because it's going to inform a lot of the decisions that we make. Do you do it because you like the sound? Do you do it because you like meeting people? Do you do it because you like the money? Can't imagine that. We're not necessarily driven by that. It's a nice side thing. To be paid for what we do is great, but most of us don't get into music for to become multimillionaires. We go into music because we love the sound of our instrument. We love the emotion that it can create. We love moving people. We love connecting with people. So getting in touch with our why is going to inform a lot of the decisions that we make in terms of our goals. So what is your goal for this year? Have a think about what, if we turn to the end of the year and you're in your ideal situation, what goal would you have achieved? It might be you won an audition for an orchestra, for a major orchestra. It might be that you produced a wonderful recital. It might be that you learned a certain piece. Have a little think about that. And then wind that back to, in order to be on track to get to that, what would you have achieved this month? What was your goal for this month? So for example, if you were wanting to put a recital together and play a recital in December, and that was your goal, is to play a really fantastic recital and get the highest possible marks that you could, where would you need to be at the end of this month? Probably you'd be looking at having covered at least one of the pieces of the repertoire. Maybe it would be, if you have an audition in December, you want to make sure that you've got your head around the list that's being presented. But everything in that monthly goal will lead us towards the end of the year. And then in order to get to that goal at the end of the month, where are you going to be? What is your goal for this week? And then bring it back to, in order to lead towards that, where would we be today? Now, this is an important process to go through for us and doesn't take an enormous amount of time. And the important thing with goal setting is don't worry about it being wrong. Goals will change. And we talk about this a lot in our summer program, is that we set goals, but they're going to shift and change as we go. If you set a goal, I want to be in 5 years' time, I want to be in the Berlin Philharmonic, and then you win the audition for the Berlin Philharmonic in 12 months' time, you have to reset your goals, right? Things are going to change. So the goals are just a path for us to go on, and the path shifts and moves, and we need to reset that path from time to time. But what it's going to feed back into is, okay, so if I've got a goal at the end of today, I want to learn to play Kopbrash number 25, or I want to, really achieve some good development on that piece. Okay, that's going to inform the structure of my practice. And informing the structure of my practice makes it easier for me when I get in the practice room, because I have to make less choices. Because I know what I'm doing. I know what I need to get done at the end of the day, and I can put the steps in place to make that work. Does that make sense? Cool. So, practice. This is a concept for me that's really important, that you want to consider in every practice session that you go into. So I want to plan my practice. I want to be very clear about in each day, and I plan my practice in week blocks, and then I reflect on those, what happened at the end of the week. But for each practice session, I want to make sure I've got a plan. Sounds pretty simple, but a lot of us go into the practice room, we pick up the instrument and go, okay, now what am I going to play now? Anyone in that category? Sit down in the practice room, and then you're like, oh, okay, what's the most pressing thing that comes to my head at this moment in time? Oh yeah, I'm going to practice Mozart for half an hour, right? And what ends up happening is we end up getting into the practice room next time, and what's the most pressing thing? Oh, I'm going to practice Mozart for half an hour. We spend an entire day on Mozart, and we forget that we haven't practiced any articulation exercises or scales, or soft playing or loud playing, or increasing our range, or expanding our skill set. So it's really important that we have a plan, and part of the plan, we have a balanced diet. It's like us if we go into a buffet in Las Vegas, we don't go into the buffet and only grab the chicken. If you like chicken, that's great, but you're not going to only eat chicken because there's a whole bunch of things. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and we're going to have a balanced plate. And it's the same with our practice. We need to make sure that we're balanced in our practice so that we're developing stably and consistently as we go through. We just don't want to be focusing. For me as a high horn player, I don't want to only be practicing in the upper register, because a piece is going to come along sooner or later that is going to expose the stuff that I haven't been practicing, which is the low stuff. So I need to make sure that in my practice I'm balanced. And sure, it's going to have different weighting. I'm going to practice certain things more than others, but I need to make these decisions away from the practice room. So once I've made these decisions and I'm clear about what I want, what my plan says, what I want to practice, then I've got to make sure I execute. And what a lot of us tend to do in practice is we get distracted and we move off the plan. We create a plan. We're like, okay, I'm going to practice these 5 things in my practice session, or these 6 things. And then we get immersed in one, oh, I need to do more practice on this. And we get rid of, we forget, oh, I'm not going to practice, my fast articulation today because I need to really practice this thing. If we create a plan before we practice of a balanced diet, really, really important that we execute that plan. And trust what you set up before you got into the practice room, because those decisions are generally better than the decisions we make when we're holding the instrument. And then what's really important at the end of each practice session is to make sure that we reflect. What actually happened, right? What actually happened? What went wrong and what went right? But mostly, what do we want to improve? What do we feel as though the areas that we can work on? And then what are 1 to 3 things that we can do in our next practice session where we can deal with those issues that we're going to put in place to ensure that improvement? So the reflection part is super important, and it's something that as musicians we tend to forget. We're pretty good at going into a practice room and practicing for half an hour. Anyone have any trouble with that? Sitting in a room practicing? We're pretty good at that, right? Everyone's okay with that? Yeah, pretty good. And then we go, okay, practice is over. Let's go have a cup of coffee. Let's go to the pub. Let's, go to the game. Let's have watch TV, have a good time, right? Make sure that you spend that couple of minutes after your practice session to actually reflect on what happened and what are the things that you think you can improve? What are the areas that you need to continue to address? And then importantly, what are you going to do next time that's going to facilitate that improvement? This will increase your development probably 50%, I think. It'll really speed up things because we actually, this loop is really, really important for us to feed back into the next practice session. What most of us are experts at is the play and pray method. We play and then we pray that the next time we come back, it's going to be better. It's all going to work. Some miraculous thing is going to happen and it's just going to be fixed. But by reflecting, by putting that extra step in of thinking about how we're going to approach the next session, what are the things that we need to do to continue to improve, we're going to be in better shape. Okay, any questions, please put them in the chat. For those of you who registered and are in the Zoom room, good morning. We have a small gift for you. We're going to give you access to my practice plan, and that template it lays out how I would structure my plan for practicing and why. So I break my practice sessions. I don't practice for more than half an hour at a hit, in an ideal sense, and I break my practice session into 5-minute chunks, and I practice a variety of 5-minute chunks through the practice session. It's called interleave practice, and it is extremely effective for helping you to improve really quickly. It's like, for those of you who go to the gym, any people go to the gym here? I won't put my hand up because that would be a total lie. Okay, great. So those of you who go to the gym, it's basically interval training. So we know that with interval training, for example, if I told you all that you're going to go outside now and you're going to run for 50 yards as fast as you can, you would be able to do that, right? We all would be able to do that 50 yards, no problems. Well, I mean, I wouldn't, but most of you would be fine. Willard, you'd be fine. It'd be great. Yeah. If I said, okay, now you're gonna take off on a 5K, right? You got to go outside and run a 5K. You would not start out at the same pace, right, as you would for 50 yards. There's no way, because you know that after probably 100 yards, life would be pretty tough. And so we would start at a moderate pace. This is basically how we approach practice. If we're not practicing this interleaved way, we practice, okay, I'm going to practice Mozart for half an hour. Oh, I've got plenty of time. I'll just do a little bit of this. There's not a sense of urgency. Whereas if we break our practice into 5-minute chunks, there's a significant sense of urgency. In 5 minutes time, I have to finish this element. I have to finish practicing Mozart and I have to move on to playing a Copra study, for example. So there's going to be a sense of urgency. There's going to be a sense of intensity, knowing that you're going to get the same amount of practice done as you normally would. It's just each of those 5-minute segments are going to be way more intense than if you'd have practiced them in a longer, more relaxed setting, and the progress will be much better. So spacing those practice sessions. For example, if you're going to practice Mozart for 15 minutes a day, space them out into 3 different practice sessions rather than in one block. You'll get way more work done. You'll learn it faster. Your brain will recall it better, and you'll have much greater improvement. Okay. So last week we talked about effective practice and understanding the 3 pillars of our development. And this is what's really important to help us bring everything from our practice room on stage. What tends to happen with us in auditions and in performance when we give a performance that's not so great is one of these 3 areas is significantly weaker than the other. So we have the physical side, so what we actually do with the instrument. Scales, slurring, legato playing, register development, evenness of sound, dynamic control, rhythmical elements, all of these things that we play on the instrument, we need to make sure that we're improving. And we spend most of our time in practice working on this area. So it's really important. If I can't play the horn very well, or if I can't play in the high register, I can have a great musical image of what I'm wanting to do, and mentally I can be very strong, but if I can't physically do it, then it's going to let me down. So rightly, we spend a lot of time focusing on the physical side of what we're doing in our playing. But what is important and what comes out in auditions, and we hear this all the time, is making sure that we develop the musical side as well as the mental side in order to be able to deliver that on stage. And I told this story in the challenge. You know, I spent a lot of time living in Germany where I was taking a lot of auditions, and I was playing great. My practice was great. I could play all around the horn. I had a terrific sound. I could play all the notes. Everything was fantastic. And I would get into the audition and it would totally fall apart. I would start questioning, like, why am I even here? Like, I suck. And I realized at that point, my mental game was basically at a 20 out of 100. I had no plan. I had no structure and I had no tools. I was just getting really nervous and I wouldn't breathe and I would produce a tiny little sound and I'd panic and I'd get more tense and I'd miss more notes and I would freak out and then I'd walk out after they said Dankeschön. And I would go like, what is going on? I'm way better than the people that are playing this audition that are winning these jobs, but I can't seem to deliver that. And one thing has not changed over the years. Can anyone think what the one thing for me that has not changed is? Have a guess, put it in the chat or put your hand up. What has not changed for me in terms of when I play with the Berlin Phil or when I play a solo concerto or an audition? James, you hit it right on the head. Perfect. Nerves. I still get nervous. I'll get nervous tonight. We have a concert tonight with the LA Phil. I get nervous all the time. But the difference is Now I understand how to practice in a technical sense so that I can deliver that consistently when I'm under pressure. Musically, I understand exactly what I want to say even clearer than I used to. But most importantly for me, mentally, I have a set of tools that can get me into the space of being in the now and understanding that I don't have to be perfect. It's so important. I know tonight that I'll make mistakes. I don't want to. It's not the plan. But the plan is to focus on the music, immerse myself on the music, physically prepare as well as I can, and stay in the moment and execute what I've prepared to do. And if there are some bumps in the road, that's fine, because I just keep sticking to the plan, keep moving forward. Does that make sense? Cool. So making sure that we've covered each of these areas in our practice plan, in our daily plan. So the physical side is important. Musically, what can we do? Write a couple of things down in the chat that you think musically you need to be well prepared. What would you prepare for if you're putting an audition together or a recital together? What would you do so that you feel musically prepared? And for those of you who were in the challenge last week, you will have some of these answers. Stick it in the chat. A lot of listening, great. Anything else? Making sure, yeah, Jill, great. So creating clear ideas. Looking at the score, fantastic. Making sure that you're aware of the tempo. Singing your piece first. So this is one of the things, no matter what instrument we play, and this ends up being a little trap for a lot of us. No matter what instrument we play, if we do not have a clear musical opinion, we're going to be relying on our technique, whatever that technique is at that time. And if the image isn't clear that we're going for, the result can't be clear. It's like, for example, if you were building a house, and if you're building a house and the set of plans were created by your 4-year-old child, like a crayon drawing, and you gave that to the builder, what do you reckon your house would look like? Pretty dodgy, right? So we need to make sure that the plan that you have, the image for the house that you're wanting to build, is as crystal clear and stable as it possibly can be. And then you have a chance of actually producing something that's, that you're going to want to live in. It's the same with us musically. If the first thing, and put your hand and be honest with this, right? Raise your hand if you got a new piece of music and the first thing that you did was pick up the instrument and try and start playing through it. Put your hand up if you've ever done that. Yeah, good. Well, you guys are a really honest group. That's great. Yeah, and it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense, right? Because you've got no idea of what that piece sounds like. You've got no idea what it should sound like. You've got no goal to move towards. Yet we still pick up the instrument because we think, oh, this is the way that we learn stuff. So the next time you pick up a new piece, and try it today, grab a study. Grab any study that you can, or grab a new excerpt that you don't know. And if you can find a recording of that, if you can't find a recording of that, try and sight sing it and sing it through and get the image of what you want, and spend the time to go through until you have a clear image of what you want from the piece, or how you want it to sound. Don't even touch the instrument. So sing through it, then you can maybe work on the fingerings without playing the instrument. And once you've got that clear idea and you're starting to make that connection, then start playing the instrument. And see how much more advanced it would be than if you just picked it up and started going for it. Does that make sense? So really, really making sure that we need to have good clarity. And the thing with the 3 pillars and we don't have the graphic for the 3 pillars, but you can imagine that these 3 things are 3 pillars, is that they need to be developed separately before we bring them together. And this is where, if we can, when we're preparing for an audition, we talk about this a lot in the summer program, and we teach you how to bring these together and when to bring it together as you lead into a performance or lead into an audition. We need to practice the physical side and get that execution, that skill set on our instrument. Absolutely, we need to practice that. We need to make sure that we practice the musical side and get the clearest possible image totally detached from the instrument so that it's as pure as possible. And last week we talked about the conductor and the singer method, or the singer and the conductor method. So if you didn't have a chance to see that, check that out, check those videos out in the, I think it's day 4 or day 3 of the challenge. And then the mental side, we need to develop our skill set. The same as playing the instrument, mentally is a skill set that we need to develop away from the instrument, and most importantly, away from the stress of performance. We wouldn't go into playing a Strauss concerto and just only practice the concerto on the day of the performance. But this is a lot of what happens with the mental game. People will only focus on the mental stuff when they're under pressure. They'll have a centering routine, but they'll only use it on the day where they're feeling stressed. We need to practice all of these things separately and individually. Okay, so just some things to think about in the practice room, and how you want to approach these things as you go through your practice sessions. Making sure that you're addressing errors, making sure that you're not letting things just go by as you're practicing your technique, so that you're really in touch with what are the elements that go into sound production for your instrument, and that you're making sure that they're being put into place rather than you just sort of getting around and getting the notes. And then importantly, making sure that you're linking the technical and the musical side. So who in the room plays scales in their practice? Anyone? Oh, good. Okay, great, terrific. Anyone in their practice their scales in the style of Mozart? No? Sometimes? And what about in the style of Strauss? Mahler? Shostakovich? Oh. So what style do you practice your scales in? Scale style? Yeah? Scale style. That's good. How many composers write for scale style? Very few, right? So this is the interesting thing when you think about it, you're like, oh, so I'm just practicing my scales as like just a machine. And in what piece does that relate to? None of them. So the next time you are practicing your scales or your arpeggios, try and link it to the piece that you're playing. If you're practicing, you've got a Mozart concerto come up, spend at least some of the time in your technique tailoring those drills, those exercises, to the piece that you're playing. Style of John Cage. Yeah, Sammy, very good. So it's important for us to keep these things in mind, because we want to start making this connection. Once we're happy with our skill set in a certain area, then how do we start building that bridge from the technical side or the physical side to the musical side? And for brass players, Coprash is a great one. So we've all the brass players in the room played Coprash, right? Everyone's played Coprash. I don't know if, Chikako, have you played Coprash on the flute? Does the flute players play Coprash? Yes? Maybe? I can't hear. So most of us have played Coprash or some sort of very technical etude from time to time. The challenge, once you've got that feeling really stable and your technique's feeling really good, is to change the style. Can you play Coprash in the style of Strauss and hear that as if it were a tone poem? Or can you play it in the style of Mozart or Haydn or Bach? Okay, Zuri, you haven't missed out on that much. But I'm sure there are definitely flute studies and etudes that are very technical built, because the amount of technique required to play the flute is extreme. You know, next time you go back to one of these, and it's not only about new studies, it's the old studies. Have a look at the studies that you're familiar with and change the style. This is going to really help to make it a little more difficult and build this connection to the musical side of our playing. And then making sure that we're making this connection in our practice room. And this is something that I am guilty of doing a lot, is I practice to practice. I practice to get better. I practice to feel comfortable in my practice room. And then when I get into performance, it's a totally different feeling. What we want to start doing in our practice is to spend some time practicing how you play, how you want to perform. Getting into that character and imagining yourself on the stage, producing that result. Does that make sense? Yeah, so that we're working on our practice in multiple different ways, and we're building this connection to how we want to perform. So how do we link the practice to performance? Well, we can start then putting us under some stress. So recording ourselves and forcing yourself to play all the way through an excerpt or all the way through a study while you're recording. What we tend to do in practice, put your hand up to do this, is when you make a mistake, you stop. You want to do that? Make a mistake, stop. Fix the mistake and then move on, right? We all do that. And it's an important part of practice. But what is as much an important part of practice is making sure that we keep going through the mistake. Because guess what? In a concert, you're going to make a mistake. And if we train ourselves in our practice to give, every time we make a mistake, we stop, what ends up happening? In the concert, your brain goes, oh, we should stop now, and I should go back and fix that. And we end up with this sort of, glitch in the matrix. And this is when we make multiple mistakes. And we've all had that, where we make a mistake and we go, oh, God, I made a mistake. Oh, how silly was I? Oh, there's another mistake. Oh, this is not going so well. Crash, another one. And it sort of spirals out of control. So we need to get familiar and comfortable with making mistakes and continuing to go on. Okay, so recording will help that. Mock auditions. And it can be a mock audition for your cat. That's fine. It can be a mock audition for your partner. It can be a mock audition for your friends. It can be a mock audition for Facebook Live. Oh, scary. If any of those things feel a little uncomfortable, that's what we want to be honing in on, right? Because this is how we're making this transition to get used to feeling the difficulty in performance. In our summer program, we have multiple opportunities for people to feel under that sort of little bit of stress. We have performance classes, we have recording uploads, we have live small group sessions, one-on-one sessions. So you're going to have the opportunity to be able to test this feeling and get used to trying the tools out that you're developing. Yeah, Facebook Live sounds, yeah, Rachel, you're very right. Hi, Rachel. Rachel's part of our team as well. Very, very challenging, very scary. So I find for me, recording myself is the worst thing. I hate listening to myself, and it makes me really stressed. Just the act of putting a recording device on and playing and realizing that I know that at some point I'm going to have to hear this again, it freaks me out like nothing, right? It's horrible. But once you do it a few times, you get used to the fact that, oh yeah, okay, this is not so bad. I can hear myself. I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna get feedback on my playing. This reflection thing that we talked about at the beginning, and I'm gonna be in good shape, and it's gonna help me get better. So okay, I'm gonna deal with it. And then when we start moving away from, I'm not judging myself. I'm just actually looking for how I can improve things. then we realize it's actually really valuable and it's really helpful and I become more comfortable. It still doesn't mean that at the end of an LA Phil concert, when we get every concert that we do is recorded and I can listen to it back within a couple of hours after the concert. And I you know, a couple of hours after the concert, I know where I'd screwed up, right? So listening back to that and going, well, I hope that maybe it didn't sound like that. But and of course the mistake is still there. But what I also realize is that when I make a mistake and I think, oh, I made a mistake. I listen back and I'm like, oh, wow, that was one little blip in an hour's music. It was such a small thing. Okay, what I'm aware of is what the overall impression was, what the overall image that I gave, what was the overall level, and what are the things that I can improve on that basis. Not listening for that little one mistake that I made, because that will always happen. Well, 90% of the time. The other 10%, sometimes I get them all right. And then considering using our rehearsal. So using rehearsal time as an opportunity for you to practice performing. Practice expanding the difficulty of, you know, what you're doing. So in rehearsal, I like to find out, okay, so how far can I push this soft playing? How far can I stretch this rhythm so that it's still together with people? How much can I blend this sound with other people? What are the limits that I can take it to, so that when I go into performance, I feel as though I've tried out everything and I know where my comfort zone is. And this is a little bit along the lines of what we talked about last week in the challenge of the 5 ways method. So way too little, just right, too much, way too much. Okay, any questions, chuck them in the chat. If I'm missing any questions, Dana or Sammy or Rachel, please let me know. Or if I'm missing your question, please just unmute yourself and yell at me. It'll be fine. Okay. Just wanted to now jump. So we've talked about goal setting, we've talked about practicing, just a little bit about the mental side of things and understanding how our brains work. So we have 2 sides of your brain. You have the left and the right side, and this is a pretty good diagram of that. The left side is our reasoning side, our logic, mathematics, understanding languages, those black and white things, or grey things. And then the right side of the brain is our creative, emotional, musical, artistic side. So what we learn really well with our left brain, we learn all of these fundamentals, the technique, the logical, you know, score reading side of what am I playing with, how things fit together, all these important elements, and you know, what I need to do to improve my playing. But when we perform, we want to be as much as possible living in our right brain and trusting the work that our left brain has set up. What we tend to do in performance, and what makes things difficult in performance, is that we keep referring back to our left brain. We keep checking that we've learned how to play the instrument. It's like, you know, if you go to a birthday party and you have a beautifully wrapped present, you picked out the present, you wrapped up the present, put a bow on it, everything's really great. Go to the birthday party, you knock on the door, and then you're like, oh my goodness, did I pack the present? And you unwrap the present and you look at it, yeah, I got the present, okay, wrap that back up again. We do this in performance all the time, right? We get to the concert and we know that we've prepared the piece, we know that everything's great. All that we need to do is actually present it and go for it. But what we do is we go back, oh, I've got to make sure that, you know, I've got that note, I need to make sure that I do this, and I've got to make sure that I put my tongue in this position. All of these things go through our head. And all this is just our brain activating the left side. The left side of our brain is also where our fight or flight comes from. So all the nervous stuff, all the negative self-talk, all of that talk that when we're in our head and it's like, yeah, Andrew, I know you've played this piece 20 times before, but tonight is the night you're going to screw it up. That's where that voice, and that comes into our left brain. And so what we want to be making sure is, and what we talk a lot about in the program, in the mental side, and we get Dinka Vakovic to come and work with everyone on this, is how we can build tools to stay in the right brain, and how we can build tools to understand what's actually going on. And then how we can get into a performance mindset where we trust the work that we've done and we can produce our best, not Stefan Dor's best, not James Galway's best, not Dennis Burikov's best, but our own best on the stage. And we commit to that. And when we have these tools, it's really exciting. It's really exciting going on stage, knowing that you have, yeah, you're nervous, but you can channel that nervous energy into something that's really positive. And you need that to be able to get through a performance, and then it's going to be exciting. So a quick rundown of my mental plan. Number one key is awareness. If I don't have awareness of what I'm doing, and this goes from the technical side as well, if I'm not aware of what I'm doing, then it's very difficult for me to implement something or change it. I have a centering routine that really focuses me on.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your on-stage call. On stage for the top of the rehearsal. Thank you.
Welcome to Walt Disney Concert Hall. If you heard that. So my centering routine helps me to get into my right brain and to focus on what I want to do right now, and to let the work that I've done go and go for it in performance. Visualization is a really important tool in my practice. Visualizing, seeing myself performing at a really high level, seeing myself being happy, seeing myself going for it and trusting the work that I've done. Creating a positive outlook in the way that I want to approach my performance. And this goes with my centering routine, that I'm going to go for it. It's not that I'm going to be perfect. It's not that I'm going to play great. It's that I'm going to go for it. I'm going to focus on what I want as an outcome for the performance. My superpower. So I imagine that I'm a bit of my own superhero. I put my cape on before I go into performance sometimes. So discovering what is going to help you to perform really well. And really one of the most important things is that having a mental plan is it gives you the ability to be able to recover from mistakes. We talked about this last week. The two most important things for top level performance are, one, they start well in a performance because they're focused, and two, that they recover well. It's not that they play perfect concerts, and none of us will do that. Okay. So these are, I've got some, I've tried to tie all of these processes and this thought together into 5 little secrets for you guys. Things that you just want to consider and think about. Do you have a plan for that? Do you have are you able to address those things, and do you have access to those things when you're in your performance or in your practice? So as we talked about, find your why and keep coming back to that. Why do we play the instrument? I have to remind myself of this when I'm standing up, just about to walk on the stage to play a concerto. What runs through my head is, why are you doing this? Why would you put yourself through this stress? You're crazy. This is really stressful. Anyone felt this before a concert? You're like, why am I, what is the, yeah, I want to run away. Like, this is so terrifying. I should have taken a job as, something much more relaxing than this. I can't. If we remind ourselves of why we're doing it, it makes it a lot more meaningful, and it's going to help us to be able to focus in the right areas. So why am I playing concerto? Because I really love playing music. I love the sound of the horn, and I like to see the reaction of people in the audience when they enjoy something. That's really fulfilling, and that, by just saying that, makes me feel more positive, and it makes me less nervous and less stressed. And remembering that my goal is to enjoy the performance. Yeah, exactly. It's a very good point, Tom. Like our, what we do in music is very challenging, right? But not saving lives. We're actually we're actually enhancing people's lives. And remember, another good thing to think about is the audience. And when you're in the audience, you go to a concert not to listen to hope that people make a mistake. You go and listen to see, what's going to happen. If you wanted to listen to a perfect version of Tchaikovsky 5, you wouldn't come to the LA Phil. You'd go and put a recording on because it's going to be perfect, right? Because they wouldn't put out a recording that wasn't perfect. But the thing about live performance is it's something that's alive and active, and you don't know what's going to happen. And that's why people come to the live performance, and that's what they want to see. They want to see what your take on it is. And if you make a mistake, okay, what's going to happen next? That's why sport on television is so watched by so many, because no one knows what the outcome is. Okay. So find your why. Keep checking that you're connecting with the pillars. If you have a performance where things don't go so great, or things aren't going so great, just check back on, or in your practice session where things don't work so well, just check back on those pillars. See, okay, so what's going on in my technical side? And if you're struggling with a piece, okay, musically, what is my picture? Can I really sing it? Can I sing that piece as clearly as I want without connecting to the instrument? Is it just pure musical? And then mentally, what's going through my head? Am I being distracted by something? Or did I take time to get into the moment and get focused and be able to attach my mental image to the music? Do I have an emotional reaction to the music, or is it just something that is totally disconnected? So try and link those things together in our practice, and then as we move towards performance. Be aware. Be aware in your technique when, am I putting in the ingredients that I want to put in? If you're a wind or a brass player, how is my breathing? How am I engaging the airstream? Am I set up well? What is my articulation like? What is the physical positions that I'm getting into? Musically, am I hoping that this note comes out, or am I actually really hearing it? And mentally, am I staying in the moment? Am I aware that my voice in my head is telling me all these crazy things? Or am I able to put that aside and move forward? So creating awareness of these areas and working on those is super, super important as we develop. Have a plan and stick to it. This is important in audition preparation, because I guarantee you, as you prepare for an audition, anyone preparing for an audition at the moment? Anyone? Great, terrific. Okay, good. So create a plan away from the instrument. Once your plan's created, stick to the plan. Why? Because you created it. Don't let your emotional reaction to, oh my God, it's 2 weeks out, I'm going to quit. Oh my goodness, I've got a week for the audition now. I need to start running around the block. I need to start going to the gym because that's what's going to really help me. Or I need to, take up the flute because that's, no. You created a plan, stick to it. What's going to help is the plan will give you confidence. You know that you've executed a plan. You know you put together a good plan. You executed that plan. You're in good shape. And then more importantly, and this is what we lose a little bit of focus on sometimes when we have auditions, is that, believe it or not, there's life after the audition. Anyone done an audition and then their life stopped? No. So it feels like it's going to stop. And then as soon as the audition's over, it's like, oh, I still got to do the washing. I still got to do the dishes. I still got to eat, right? So if we have a plan and we execute the plan in an audition, we're going to get feedback from ourselves. We're going to learn things from that. And having structure from the plan, you then have something that you can then take away and adjust for the next time. Even if it's just for a performance, you're going to have another performance. There are certain elements that you're going to learn. Oh, when this moment comes up, I mentally go into this area. Okay, so now I know that that's going to happen. I can be prepared for that for the next time. Or, I feel tired at this moment in this Mahler symphony. Okay, so tomorrow night I'm going to take it a little easier here and then move on. If we have a plan, we have something to work with. If it's just random and we change stuff all the time, it becomes very, very challenging to find out actually what went right and what went wrong. So having a plan gives us something to reflect on and make adjustments. And lastly, of the 5 secrets, really important that we go for what we want, for what you set out to do, not for what you think the panel wants, not for what you hope the audience likes. It's for what you want to present. And stay true to yourself, and that gives you the best opportunity to produce your best results. Okay, so an investment musician, we put together a 5-star musician mastery method, and it's a 12-week program over the summer. We're very excited. We've presented this program several times, and it's great to see a lot of our alum actually in this session. We have had a fantastic time working with dozens and dozens of people over the last 2 years. It's a really exciting program. It's an amazing community of people, and it's been awesome working with people from 16 to 60, well into their 60s, helping you improve your playing and develop your skill set and identify what is holding you back. What are those areas that are just, we can't get over the hump? And then we work together to really help you to develop that and expand your skill set so that you can achieve the goals that you want to set for yourself. And we obviously work with you on those goals. So this is the sort of the crux of the method that we work on, developing efficient practicing. So then that's leading to consistent performance, making sure that we've organized our time, and then that our goal setting and our organization of our time is actually leading us towards great results and sustained improvement. A lot of us focus on the next thing that's coming up, and it takes us in various different areas in our playing and in our practice. But what we want to do is we can continue to increase our level, raise our ceiling every time that we're getting into the practice room, and every opportunity that we have to perform. We're going to continue to develop, and sooner than later, we're going to be in a position where we're going to feel pretty happy about ourselves. The program also talks about creating income, helping us win jobs, win orchestral auditions, win university jobs, arts admin jobs, and creating relationships that we need as musicians, in our freelancing and teaching environment. But all of this is very, very much about the goals and working with you to achieve the goals that you're setting out for yourself. So this is a little brief outline of what the course entails. So we start with a personal assessment, and we work with you individually on that to find out where you are and where we want to be going over the course of the 12 weeks. Involved in the program private lessons. So if you're a flute player, we have Dennis Burikov. If you're a clarinet player, we have Boris Algerian. Horn players, you stuck with me. Should be okay. Don't worry. Every couple of weeks, technique classes, and that's coupled with technique videos that we send out to you to help improve your technique and give you different ideas on technical areas. Mental training, performance classes. So every opportunity will be given every 2 weeks. You'll get an opportunity to perform live in the Zoom room for the group and for one of the faculty members. And then we also have feedback on video uploads that often I will send you a video of my thoughts and my playing based on what repertoire that you're performing in. As a mock audition at the end of the process. We have some fantastic experts that we bring in. We have an amazing physical therapy expert, Alexander Technique, and discussions on freelancing, teaching, all of these areas to be a successful musician, as we emerge from the pandemic. So we would love to talk to you. So for this group in the Zoom room at the moment, for those of you who have registered, we can set up a free coaching call, and we can talk about what your challenges are at the moment. Very happy to do that. The link will be in the chat. And we've got 3 special bonuses for people who enroll by April 30, so next week, which would be pretty cool. And we've got limited spots, so it's a small group. We want it to be very very hands-on, very individual for everyone who's interested in working with us in the program. Okay. So Ripple, is Ripple there? I saw her earlier, but no. Just taking the kids to school.
Sorry. Just walked in the door.
Oh, hi. Hello. So hopefully out of today, you've got some ideas about how we can bring our practice and develop our practice so that it's going to be successful and consistent in performance. And for me, the big takeaway is that we're not trying to be perfect when we perform, that we're delivering the level, that we're practicing in a way so that we can actually make that transition from what I've produced in the practice room at a really high level and make it easy and have the skill set to be able to produce it on stage. And if I make a mistake, I've still got the skills to be able to continue to focus on the work that I've done in the practice room and produce everything at a consistently high level. I say to pretty much everyone everyone who I talk to is like, I don't get paid to play in the LA field to play perfectly, because if I did, I would have been fired a long time ago. But I get paid to play at the same level for every performance. We do 3 or 4 performances of each program, and I want to make sure that the audience is hearing the same level every night. They're going to hear different mistakes. They're going to hear little things that aren't perfect, but the LA field will sound the same level each night, and that's the goal. And putting these skills in place really helps to enable that. It's really interesting. There's I was listening to an interview with Itzhak Perlman, and he was talking about his performance level, and he said the nights where his wife comes back to him and says, "Oh, that was a wonderful performance," is where he plays at about 90% of his capacity, where he thought that it's about 90% of what his absolute peak was. And for pretty much every high-level performer, that's the level of what you're hearing from them 95% of the time, is about an 80 to 90% of their absolute peak level. And occasionally, they have nights that are just like everything clicks and it works. It's the same in sports. They call it being in the zone. When a player's in the zone, they can't miss a shot. Everything they do goes right. That very, very rarely happens. But what we want to do as performers and high-level performers, and definitely for auditions, is have a skill set where we're performing at our optimal level, which is 80 to 90% of our full capacity, of our perfect night. And that's what we want to make sure that we're doing consistently. And that's what we sort of talked about today. All right. Ripple, do you have anything to add? Dana, anything to add?
No, that sounds like you covered it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for being involved in Invest in Musician. Just as a reminder, the summer program will be open until the middle of May in terms of registration. This will be the last opportunity you have to work with me directly for the rest of this year. And at the moment, we're not planning on running the course next summer. So this potentially is the last opportunity this summer for quite some time. So we still want to be doing some free events, but to work with me individually and to work in the program, this summer is going to be the one to get into. So hope to see you on a call sometime. Also, if you just want to have a chat, or you just want to hear a great Australian accent, you can also sign up for a call. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.